The note here coming from that note of motivation, that note of encouragement, makes me also look at what many have called the anthem for the new year. That we know they agree for anybody this year.
That's quite, it's funny. Yeah.
So then I was wondering, is it that Shade is trying to give us another version of not agreeing for anyone this year? But then it's a happy new year. It's good to see you. The last time I saw you on this set was 2023. That's a long time,
It's a long time, you see.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to have you join us this brand new year as we journey together in the task of information, education, and entertainment. And we thank you so much for all you did with us the previous year. This new year, let's do more. It promises to be another interesting edition this morning. I am Sunday Kolawole.
All right, and I'm Folashade Ogidam. As we do it on the show, we're going to be hiding some spices to it, but definitely the regulars ask what we have for you on the show. We'll be taking you through the newspaper's headlines and we'll take a break. We'll be back from the break. It will be time for discussions of the day, as you can trust that the discussions this time are going to be a little, eat up and something more informative and educating. All right, looking at the newspaper's headlines for this morning, we start with the Daily Independent. On the Daily Independent this morning, we've got the story: bloated directorates worsen aviation sector's woes. That's according to experts. Say agencies may not survive with top-heavy bureaucracy. Wow, bureaucracy, crumbling administration, or what is supposed to be done. All right, check the front page of the Daily Independent for details on that story if you're interested in the aviation sector and what is happening there. All right, we also have this one. We worked behind the scene for Peace and Rivers. Jury ends for Barra. Okay, details of that you find on page 29 of the Daily Independent for this morning. EFCC raids Dangote Lagos office over FX deal. You want to know more on that? Check page 29 as well. On page 7 of the Daily Independent, we have this story. Despite National Working Committee opposition, Ondo PDP ratifies its chairman's suspension. What's the ratification? Check page 7 of the Daily Independent for this morning. And still on page 7, we have this one: NIDCOM probes killing of Nigerian student by Canadian police. And that's a sad one there. We pray God gives the deceased repose for his soul. All right, and on page 6, Nigeria can attain with sufficiency, says Jigawa governor, right? And on page 6 also is this story: public office ban. Well, that's public office ban. Buhari's ex-minister Talon appeals judgment. All right, and I guess Paul Talon there, the former Minister for Women Affairs, appealing the judgment. And still on the Daily Independent, we have this one: FG's directive of 50% automatic deduction from IGR on settles ASUP. And this one: Union seek aviation agencies removal from TSA, inauguration of board of directors. You also find that story on the front page of the Daily Independent. And finally, on the Daily Independent is this one: Northern governors seek federal government, states collaboration to better life of citizens. I guess it's a much desired one: collaboration between the states and federal government to better the life of the citizens. After all, that's what governance is all about. And that will be the last one from the Daily Independent. Sonny, what do you have for us?
Well, such collaboration must be something that would really culminate in the welfare of the people. What have we seen in the last few years since return to democracy in 1999? It's been a case of collaboration for the advantage of a microscopic few who are privileged, nay, who are opportunists, who are opportune. I don't want to call them opportunists, who are opportune to be at the corridor of power. And then these elements use political power for their personal aggrandizement, and then you find that people who they are supposed to serve now tend to be the ones serving them. And when sometimes recently I saw the story on Tinubu calling for more collaboration among states with the federal government, and now this is also coming up. It should excite one, but then it leaves a modicum of doubt and concern because such collaboration, when the center is stronger than the federating units, you tend to wonder what exactly would happen because at that level, the third leg will definitely be having problem, and that is why local government remains in comatose till tomorrow. And so if the federal government is really serious, nay, if the Tinubu administration is really serious to have Nigeria developed, there must be a way to tinker with our federalism and to remove all these utilitarian tendencies and totalitarian tendencies from our democracy so that it will be collaboration indeed in such a way that states are allowed to develop at their own pace with their own resources, and then they contribute to funding the center. For me, if that is not done, states will continue to go cap in hand like street. I don't want to go there, but look, there must be a way to recalibrate our federalism, and that will never be possible until we find a way to tinker with our constitution and then indeed let the people have a say in the law, the ground norm that governs their own affairs. Otherwise, it will not augur well. And I do know that it must augur well in the new year, but if it will, everyone must do the needful, including the government and the governed, to make it all go well. Let's continue as we check the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. And the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper has this story. Here withdraws suits against 25 Rivers Assembly members. Appeal court judgment unfair to me. Plateau governor tells Supreme Court. That's on page 2. And still talking Plateau here on page 26. Plateau killings. Police arrest 8 suspects. Well, interesting suspects have been arrested in connection with Plateau killings, but Nigerians don't want to hear that they've been arrested. What they want to hear is that they are actually brought a book. Not the book that is full already, but the one that will make them to serve as deterrents to others that might also have the tendencies of wanting to disturb the peace of the Nigerian people. So Nigerians are watching. Let's see how far you will go with these. And the police would have this one as a litmus test of its integrity, of its tenacity, and of its professionalism in handling matters such as these. On a sad note, Nollywood actor Olofa Ino dies at 73. May God rest his soul. You find the detail of the story on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper of this morning. Let's go to Osun State. Adeleke harmonizes levies taxes for ease of doing business. Page 29 of the Nigerian Tribune has a story. Let's see how businesses will be able to experience improvement due to that development. Page 27, troops kill 10 terrorists, rescue abducted victims in Katsina, Zamfara. Interesting. Let's keep the onslaught against these terrorists. Let's keep it on. ASP on the run as police arrest, dismiss inspector for alleged robbery in Lagos. I think I should check the story again. ASP on the run as police arrest, dismiss inspector for alleged robbery in Lagos.
Inspector, alleged robbery.
And ASP is also on the run.
And ASP is also on the run.
Well, it does not appear that the police is the only institution where you find bad eggs. Of course, you also find bad eggs among lawyers. Recently, you heard of the lawyer who was involved in wife battering. You also find bad eggs in journalism. These are days we also talk about quacks. You also find bad eggs in politics. These are days, in
Lord,
fact,
man, it
a
seems to be a
heavy one.
basket of bad
There,
eggs there.
you find people now. Currently, there are many questions, corruption allegations, and all of that. Just yesterday, the president had to disband boards and of some parasitors and MDs, and so you would understand that this thing is like a cankerworm that has eaten deep into the fabric and backbone of the Nigerian system. And if there's going to be a way out, there must be a concerted effort to really get this out. It's not going to be the duty of President Tinubu alone, if indeed he's doing anything about that. It's not going to be the duty of EFCC, if indeed the FCC knows what it's doing. It will not be the duty of ICPC alone, that's if ICPC is doing anything. It must be the duty of all. If you yourself see something, and then you say something, if you yourself avoid corruption, it starts from the home. As a mother, are you not inflating what your child needs in school? And as a child, are you not inflating what you've been told to bring from school? All of these little things are the vectors, are the causative vectors. In biology, they tell us that vector is a causative organism of corruption. So let's be careful so that, like Buhari said when he was president, we need to kill corruption before corruption kills us. To what extent he was able to kill the corruption then? It's another kettle of fish.
Yes.
On page 6 of the Nigerian Tribune, NPA, Nemasa get new executive directors. Check their names on page 6. 2 arrested for allegedly slitting throat of neighbor in Kwara. That's terrible. Check the details on page 27 of the Nigerian Tribune. Amotekun holds candlelight walk for Akeredolu. That's on page 12. May God rest his soul. And before leaving the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, Ondo PDP appoints acting chairman, says Adams' suspension remains. Suspended Ondo local government LCDA chairman go to appeal court to challenge High Court order. That's on page 5 of the Nigerian Tribune. Well, they're already in court. You leave it at that.
That's it. They're already in court, but the way the court interprets these things sometimes,
We wait for the court to decide.
Yes, to decide.
We wait for the court to decide as far as
Several stories
concerned.
back and forth on those stories, those 2 stories. But we wait for the courts to decide. All right, moving away from the Nigerian Tribune, let's check the Daily Sun. Yes, the Daily Sun this morning started with a story. Suspects education certificates. FG may extend clampdown to Kenya, Uganda versities. Dons experts ask government to beam searchlight on local institutions as well. That is not just certificates from foreign countries like Kenya, Uganda, that should be verified. Even those from local institutions need to be verified as well. Because I read somewhere yesterday, 50-something universities operating in Nigeria were illegal. Those are private institutions. So you see that the search has to be thorough and diligently done. All right, Forex. EFCC rates Dangote, BUA, others says exercise continues. Well, I guess this well, I call this the nice one for the beginning of the year. Action in the right direction. That's what that's what you've been clamoring
action is different
for.
from action film.
That's what you've been clamoring for.
Action is different from action film. Oh. Now, Forex is not something you go to the market and then you say, I need rice 2 cups, or I need rice 3 Congos. No. Forex should be in a way that you'll be able to trace and track. Now, all of these grandstanding initial gra, I hope that will not be the last we're hearing about the onslaught against
that's what we can just hope for.
Because you telling me you are ready,
Hold on.
How did these things get into those hands? Nobody signed for it.
Maybe
nothing happened.
There
was no trace of the transaction and transfer.
In the course of this raid,
your questions will be answered. Let's see what happens.
Okay, details of our story. Please check page 25 of the Daily Sun.
Very important,
yes,
of
for
course.
details. story. And moving on, we see this one on page 26 of the Daily Sun. Bayelsa governor sues for peace as Fubara visits the Rivers crisis. A Ehe withdraws suit challenging Amawule and others. Right? FDI's Nigeria's financial assets dipped by $870 million. Right, you find details of that on page 2 of the Daily Sun. And still on page 26 of the Daily Sun, why Supreme Court should validate my election, Muftwang says it was nullified without basis. All right, police photographer die in Sokoto deputy governor's convoy road crash. That's a sad
terrible.
one. That's a sad one. We find details of that on page 4 of the Daily Sun. It's still page 27 of the Daily Sun. Wifuru Umai Ayim Onu others bag leadership award in Ebonyi. Maritime workers threatened to ground ports January 9. That's details on page 2 of the Daily Sun. It's too early to start talking about grounding activities in sectors. Well, you want to know why they choose to do that? Check page 9 or check page 2, I beg your pardon, of the Daily Sun for this morning. Finally, from the Daily Sun is this one: Plateau killings. Gombe governor advises against reprisals. Writer to that story says, will not neglect border communities. That's according to lawmaker. All right, that'll be all from the Daily Sun.
Let's check the Daily Trust newspaper. On the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, you have these ones. Subscribers kick as telcos seek FG's nod to increase tariffs. But the question is, which tariff? The one that's the data tariff that goes away as if there's a straw on it. But then, let's see what the federal government will do, as telcos are now seeking the nod of the FG to effect an increase or increment there. Tinubu appoints executive directors. Okay, we took this all the time. Now, let's check these. 1 month after FG's intervention, households, SMEs still buy cooking gas above 1,100 naira per kg. Families, businesses lament multinationals should pay attention to domestic supply, not export. Crude oil stability, key to gas production sufficiency. That's coming from experts. And then you find the pictures of the gas reserve in Nigeria and then the way and manner they've been sold to consumers. Health issue behind my inability to honor EFCC's invitation. That's coming from Sadia. Okay, and let's see this one on page 12. Girl impregnated by brother dies during abortion in Kano. That's a terrible incest there. All right, these and many more you'll find in the Daily Trust newspaper of this morning.
All right, moving from the Daily Trust, well, the New Telegraph, we just have the EFCC story. They're probing 52 firms over FX transactions with CBN. And we some of the stories there we think we've taken. Right, moving from the New Telegraph, let's check all the stories. Let's check the Nation.
Well, I think before we leave the New Telegraph newspaper, okay, we should not fail to talk about a certificate palaver. FG to extend ban to Kenya, Uganda, and Niger. Now, these are days where you find people gallivant around, and then they will just come with a posture of a pseudopad, and then they tell you I graduated from the University of Benin Republic, and then I have a certificate in project management from University of Niger, and then they tell you from Togo, and then I studied in Kenya, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, on a lighter note, it always appears that they just went there for a holiday, and then it's just a short course of 6 weeks as that expo by a reporter. They did show us. While international collaboration among Commonwealth nations cannot be ruled out, there's the need for structured monitoring mechanisms. Otherwise, it will just be anything goes. And so it's very interesting that the federal government, well, kudos, that it is rising to the occasion of saying, what the hell is this? Let's deal with it. But if you're going to deal with it, let us be holistic, let it be total. Remember, since 1999, we've been hearing of certificate problem, University
Yeah,
of Toronto,
Toronto.
and then there has been woos and cries about is it Chicago and so on and so forth. And look, when there is no effective monitoring mechanism and effective data management, we cannot, in all sincerity, rule out such abnormalities. Can you imagine NYSC not having a mechanism to say, look, you have don't NYSC, you've participated in this scheme before?
That's I don't know. I don't want to use the word.
Disheartening.
I don't want to use the word
Disheartening.
coming to my mouth now.
Disheartening.
I mean, NYC shouldn't be one of those organizations or institutions that will claim not to have database for people who have passed through
I disagree with you, Shade.
its activity or the service here.
I disagree with you.
Why should
I
it
disagree because it will be unfair on NYSC to single it out as one that should have. Now tell me, why do we have?
What I'm saying
Why
is that
just
it
a moment?
would have been easier for them to streamline.
Why do we have NIN? We have BVN. You go for your driving test and then you have driving license. Then you have what is? You have it,
Those ones are
and so on
dealing
and so
with
forth.
larger,
Now
they're
all
dealing
of
with
this,
larger population.
NYC is
I
the
get
microcosm
why.
of society, and so what affect, just like in media study, you are taught that the media takes on the coloration of the social media. The same way you cannot exercise or divorce what goes on in the NYC from what it is in the larger society. It is a failing of the Nigerian system. It is a failing of the Nigerian uncoordinated database management space, because all of this, now you cannot specifically tell us now how many we are in Nigeria, because there's no data management effective enough to be able to arrive at least an approximated
We keep
figure.
acting on
They'll just tell you
approximation.
about 200 million, when indeed in Kano State you find reproduction happening almost every day, in Kaduna State, in Lagos State, in Ondo State, everywhere. Now, how do we deal with birth registration? Now, people die almost every day. Do we have death registration? These are issues that are very critical and very important in our national life. And so, when we cannot get that right, you expect NYC to get it right?
We
Technology,
expect that smaller
technology.
institutions like that, especially those that deal with
A
intellectual,
commentator
should
provided an
be
answer to your
able-
concern yesterday
Okay, what was
that
the answer?
technology helps other nations to advance. Technology fails us here in Nigeria. It's at every point in time that we will say technology failed us. INEC told us in the build up to election that, of course, we're
IREF.
deploying technology, IRF, and all of that. What did we get eventually? Did you get anything near perfection? And so it happens like that over and again, and we expect that we will advance. We cannot advance until we have the political will, the personal will, and then the national will to get it right. Otherwise, we will just be rigmaroling on an empty circle.
Actually, all the wills that you've mentioned, both the political, the personal will, and all that, needs to be brought forward, to bearing on this matter. I mean, there are institutions that should be mirroring what ought to be, to the nation, so that we can move forward. I mean, it's unheard of, and it's actually.
Well, I think
not
it's also
in the-
commendable that the Minister of Education is also now meeting minds with the Minister of Interior to be able to look into these issues. Currently, the Minister of Interior is also setting up an automation center for passport issuance and all
Yes,
of that.
I like that a
But
lot.
such gesture should be extended to harmonizing our data in the country. I think we shouldn't be. Now, if you check my pulse, you'll find ATM, you'll find the driver license, you'll find what is it called? Is it card Igbeayo? You'll find the civil service card. You find, and so many, just so many cards. When indeed in other places, all I need is one card, and once I get there, and then everything about me comes out. And crime will also be easy to track with such an arrangement. But here, what do we find? So there must be a look at data management in our system.
Okay, I guess we're still looking forward to census this year, and aren't we?
Well, maybe you are, but I am
Well,
not.
we are looking
You
forward to
are, I
census
am
this year.
not. The reason is,
So much preparation had gone into it, and you know,
can you do anything outside budgetary allocation?
okay,
If
nothing
if
that
census was not part of the budget,
budget.
and then the National Assembly is saying, don't worry, we'll find a way around it. I am still waiting to see what way the National Assembly want to find around the matter. They've said that they are inviting the management and critical stakeholders in census to come and tell them what will be needed, and I do not know. Maybe they want to pull out money from anywhere. I do not know yet.
But so
But
much has been
since there
spent
is,
already.
that is Nigeria.
Maybe that has taken care of the preparation to some reasonable extent that they wouldn't need much.
That's why I
to
said
round
you are
off.
looking forward to it. I am not. If it comes, it's welcome. If it does not come, I'm not disappointed. That is the point. Because
You're
evil
right,
fails to
because-
plan, plans to fail. So there must be strategic plan for everything. And if there's no strategic plan for census and you say you're expecting, happy expectation.
Thank you. All right, let's check the nation for what is there. On the nation this morning, we have this 137 billion naira probe. Ex-ministers guess EFCC's 72-hour ultimatum. Right, the story says anti-graft agency rejects 3 weeks extension request by Sadia Umar Farouk. All right, details of that you will have on the front page of the nation for this morning. You know, the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Director of Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, is to appear before EFCC. All right, and let's also check this one. Uphold my mandate, Plateau Governor urges Supreme Court. Appeal Court judgment unfair. Appeals Court hearing for Tuesday. So there will be the Supreme Court hearing on Tuesday. All right, details of that is on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. FMC plans price crash for IVF births. Okay, so that's good. You know, this is Nigeria, this is Africa, where we cherish childbearing a lot, and everyone desires to have a child of their own. So, good news there. Check page 4 of the Nation for details of the story on price crash for IVF births. All right, NUC lists 58 universities awarding illegal degrees, just as we said earlier, awarding illegal degrees. That's just within the country. Wow. It's a nice move, I guess. It's a nice way of starting the year with NUC and the federal government looking into the issues of illegal degrees and fake certificates, and EFCC also probing FX things. Well, it's a nice way of starting the year. That's what they call hitting the ground running.
Listing universities awarding legal degrees, we must ask them what exactly they meant by that, because if you say that a particular institution is supposed to have 50 lecturers and then it has just 40, if I'm just speaking hypothetically, and then that's the yardstick for because eventually you will hear such things as, yes, it's because we did not get accreditation for this particular one, and then now we have got accreditation, and such institutions continue. Tell us if indeed there is a problem, if there are middlemen, or since then, let's just use that, if the middlemen for all of these institutions that are giving Nigerian education sector problems. Maybe they are affiliated institutions to all of those Niger, Benin Republic, certificate racketeering institutions. If they are, let your hammer fall on them. Let not have this back and forth. Okay, now they've been cleared. Now they are not cleared, and all of those things.
It's another story.
There must be a decisive decision. If it is illegal, shut it down. If it's not illegal, don't give it a bad name. Simple.
Really. Want to know details of that story? Please check page 6 of The Nation for details of that story. Probably answers to Sunday's questions could be there. All right, and on page 5 of The Nation, we have the story. Tinubu appoints 6 EDs for MPA and the Massa. A here drops lawsuit against Rivers House members. We read that earlier on. And finally, on the nation, the Southwest Second Commanders members for work for Akiridulu. Is a deserving one. We won't forget him. History won't forget him for setting up the Moteko, to fight insecurity in the southwest. And may the soul of our dear governor, our former governor, rest in peace. All right, that will be all from the nation this morning.
Okay, let's see if there are stories we've not been able to touch this morning on the previous dailies we've taken a look at. In The Guardian, of course, there are many other stories there. Of course, there's a group that's blaming SOP for underdevelopment in Ogoni land, and then you'll find this call from NES to Tinubu, create economic management team. That's NES telling Tinubu. That's what you find in The Guardian newspaper. And before we close up, let's also check what's there in the Leadership Friday. After December deadline, Port Harcourt, Warri refineries still not ready. Presidency embarrassed. Lokobiri, Kiari under fire. Mechanical commissioning mere face saving. Petroleum Ministry mom. Of course, they cannot keep mom. They must talk. They must talk. But then, you want to see the details of the story, check page 4 of Leadership Friday. And EFCC shy on reporting I beg your pardon, EFCC shy on reported raid of Lagos office of Dangote. That's okay. It's still talking about forex. Tinubu Buhari to headline additional's book launch. You also find one there. Some of the stories we've taken in the other dailies.
Okay, and that will be all from the newspaper's headlines for this morning. We're going to take a short break and we hope to be back soon with the discussion of the day. Don't go away. Everybody fẹ́ tètè cash out. Wọ́n ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ cash out níbẹ̀rẹ̀ ọdún.
promise to reform the economy for the long-term good by fighting major imbalances that has plagued our economy, ending the subsidy and the preferential exchange rate system were key to this fight. This fight is to define the fate and future of our nation. Much is imbalance. Thus, the effect in our economy immensely profited a tiny elite, the elite of the elite, you might call them. As we move to fight the flaws in the economy, the people who grow rich from them predictably will fight back through every means necessary. But we are ready. Our economy is going through a tough patch, and you are being hurt by it, I know. The cost of fuel has gone up. Food and other prices have followed it. Households and businesses are struggling. Things seem anxious and uncertain. I understand the hardship you face. I wish there were other ways, but there is not. If there were, I would have taken that route, as I came here to help, not to hurt the people and the nation that I love so dearly. What I can offer in the immediate is to reduce the burden of current economic situation, which has imposed on all of us, most especially on businesses, the working class, and most vulnerable among us. Already, the federal government is working closely with states and local governments to implement interventions that will cushion the pains of our people across socio-economic brackets.
Anything that you're trying to trace, when did it start, or how did it emerge, or where did we go wrong, you have to start from the beginning. You realize that by the time we got independent and we had a structured civil service that was literally copied from the British system, people were very contented. They were specifically trained to either be secretaries, to be admin officers. Cadres are very straightforward. Technical people are doing their technicalities with the supervision and leadership of a bit of the colonial masters. And everything was fairly okay. Those early civil servants were not particularly hungry to enrich themselves. They were not greedy. And they were fairly looked after. And in those days, even when people retire, you will find that they never had anything. There are people who retire and they only depend on their pension and so on and so forth. But certainly nowadays, that's not the case. The motivation, the morale boosting, the consideration of the civil servant to be looked after, I think is getting weaker and weaker. Now where we are is civil servants, there's no housing for civil servants. Yes, there are programs here and there trying to build owner-occupiers and so on and so forth, but the impact is not as strong